Hello everyone, welcome to another Narc Survivor live video. In this one, talking about how do you know when the narcissist is finally done with you? Because it can be very difficult to tell. They may come back so many times, even after you thought it was all over. And yet, there they are again, texting you, calling you on the phone, showing up at your house. And yet, before you may have had this big argument, something may have happened. And then here they are, they come back like nothing happened, as though nothing ever went wrong. And they just expect you to take them back and forget about everything that you went through, everything that they did to you. So to answer this question, how do you know when the narcissist is finally done with you? It's actually very difficult to tell. Even just given a generalized answer, without even going into a person's individual situation, just in general, it will always be difficult to tell when a narcissist is finally done with you. Because even though sometimes they may go to extremes, they may do extreme things to you. They may discard you. They may start a smear campaign against you, ruin your reputation, ruin your life. But despite that, if you're still a really good source of supply, and they can't find anyone else on your level, then yes, they may still come back to you, because you're still their best option, despite everything that they've done to you. If you're their grade A source of supply, there really is no way to tell when they're finally done with you. Even if they get in trouble, even if they go to jail or you get a restraining order on them, they may still come back. So there's really no telling when a narcissist is finally done. There's no way to know when it's finally all over. But there are certainly ways to identify if a narcissist may come back or not, which I will get into in this video to help you to guess really whether or not they may come back to you, to know whether or not they are finally done. But before I get into it, please do hit the thumbs up button down below, subscribe and click all notifications so that you will be notified when I go live in the future. And if you would like to book a one-on-one coaching session with me, just go to my website. It is narcsurvivor.co.uk. Now let's talk about this. As I've said, there is no sure way to know when a narcissist is finally done. But there's definitely ways to guess. There's definitely ways to have an idea of whether or not they're going to come back, whether or not they are actually done with you for good. there are ways to identify that. And I would say that quite possibly the number one way to know whether or not they're finally done and if they're not going to come back is to look at their life circumstances now. So think of the things that narcissists want and need in their lives. Does the narcissist have a relationship that they seem to be committed to over a long period of time, over many years? Do they have a good job, a business? Do they have plenty of money? Are they in a stable situation? Do they also have other supplies on the side as well as what they have with their primary source? Are they acquiring lots of attention and admiration from the community? Because all of these things really do determine whether or not they're going to start to crave your supply again. And I say crave because, yes, it was an addiction. Maybe it still is an addiction. They are addicted to you. Maybe even trauma bonded to you. They're hooked on your supply. But if they have other things going on in their lives, if they're in a new relationship, a marriage, maybe they've got children, and it's a stable situation. Of course, it's never completely stable with a narcissist. So in order to stabilize it, they would need to have secondary sources as well. Otherwise, of course, it's going to fall apart. It's the secondary source that provides the fun, the amusement, which helps to keep the narcissist in that relationship. As you may have noticed and experienced in your relationship with the narcissist, if you were tolerant of it, you let them have other sources of supply, or maybe you just weren't aware of it, then they stayed with you a lot longer than if you confronted them on it. Then they would have left a lot earlier on. Because narcissists need supply, they cannot live without it. And if they can't have it with you, then they're going to have it with someone else. So these are the things to look for on whether or not a narcissist is going to come back. If the narcissist hasn't moved on, they don't have a new relationship, they haven't even got a job, they haven't got any money, they haven't got many friends, many connections, maybe they haven't even got a house of their own, they're not getting much supply, they're not big on social media, there's not lots of people paying attention to them, then there's a very high chance that they're going to come back to you. There really is, especially if they don't have any other options in the past with previous sources of supply. And also keep in mind that with narcissists, very different to sociopaths and psychopaths. Narcissists are not always looking for that high-grade source of supply. Yes, they do prefer it, but they will settle for less if they have to. So even if the narcissist does downgrade, and you may think that they're not really happy in that situation, like they were doing a lot better with you. Remember, narcissists, they're different to sociopaths and psychopaths. The narcissist will just stick with that situation, and they will begin to see that new source as a grade A supply, even if they're not. Whereas with a sociopath or a psychopath, they're not going to be happy with that. They're not going to be happy with going down, settling for less. They're going to want more, and if they find more, then they will replace whoever they're with. Not only that, they may even just cut that person off completely and be alone for months or even years until they do find the type of supply that they need. Whereas the narcissist, they're not going to cut anyone off until they find a better source of supply. Until then, they're going to hold on. But also keep in mind that they may think that they've got a better source of supply. Like as I said with you, after you they downgrade. To them, initially at the beginning, of course, in the love bombing phase, any supply is going to be better than your supply. Once they've already been around you for such a long time, they're used to you now. They're familiar with you. They're no longer sensitive to the supply that you're providing to them because they've already been around it for such a long time. They're used to it. They're familiar with it. It's becoming normal to them. So even if they go off to a new situation with a new supply, that supply is nowhere near as good as you. They're not on your level. They're nowhere near as successful or attractive. The narcissist will see this supply as being perfect, and they will still see you as being flawed. Despite how great of a person you may be, they will not be able to see it. But they will be able to see it in the new source, even if that isn't even there. Because it's fresh, it's new. They haven't learned that person yet, and that person doesn't know what they're about. So that new source is always going to be better than you. You can never compete with that. At least, not in the beginning. But as time goes on, they will begin to devalue that new source. And then they may begin to re-idealize you. And that is often when they may come back. It's often when you may hear from them again. But that's only if they don't have other options who they may see as a suitable replacement as well. If they do, then they may hoover those sources. And if they feel like those sources are more susceptible, then they will just move forward with them. But also some narcissists, of course this is more rare, but it does happen. Some narcissists like having more than 2 sources as well. So they could have 5 or 10 sources of supply at the same time. Which means that they could hoover you and have lots of other supply on the side as well. That does happen with some narcissists, although of course that is more rare because most people these days, they're not able to be going through multiple people at one time. That they're not going to have so many relationships in one go. Of course, yes, there are some narcissists out there who are very successful or attractive to where they are able to have many different sources. They could have 10 or 20 sources at one time, sometimes a lot more. They could have a harem. But I think what we find is that most narcissists, they don't have that type of power. They don't have that many sources available to them. If it was available to them, then maybe they would. It's very difficult, very challenging and competitive in the world today. Of course, it's not that simple. Staying by the city, I will be flying out tomorrow to Malaysia. And then Nala will be starring again in my live video for the first time in 8 months. So I'm really excited for that. And I hope you are too. We haven't had Nala in a video for a very long time. I booked a condo. I think I'm on the 30-something floor. So there should be a nice view as well for that video. But yeah, there is no sure way to know when a narcissist is finally done with you. There's no sure way to know that. But what helps you to know is, of course, how much supply they are getting. If they've got a new relationship, they're married, they have children, of course, that doesn't mean that they're definitely not going to come back. They could still come back, but it definitely reduces the chances of them coming back. If they've got a new relationship, especially if they're married, they have children, and if you can see it's steady, it's secure, they've been together for many years, and also if they have other sources on the side, if they have a good job, a business, a steady flow of income coming in, and if they have friends, connections, especially high status connections, as we know narcissists like. So pretty much, if they have lots of stuff going on in their life, if they haven't got anything going on, there's no one there for them, they're alone, no friends, no relationship, no connections, no money, no job, just them on their own. And they're living in their mother's basement, and they've got no money, or they're staying at their friends, sleeping on their friend's couch. Of course, yes, that dramatically increases the risk of the narcissist coming back again. But there is no sure way to know. But what we typically do see is that if a narcissist had something, like let's say they had a good job, they lost their job, of course, then there's a good chance that they're going to hoover an old source. They may come back to you then. Or if they're low on cash, they can't pay the rent or their mortgage, then there's a good chance that they may hoover you again. If they lost a source of supply, a relationship ended, that's typically when they might hoover an old source. So these are things to look for. That if you see that something is happening in their life where things have dramatically changed, they're not the same as they were before, they're not in a stable, secure situation, be aware that they may try to come back. So I think that's it. I think that's informative enough for you to know when the narcissist is finally done. But as I said, there is no sure way to know. It really does depend on mostly external circumstances, because that's what's going to keep them afloat rather than their internal strength, which can be helpful in some ways to detect whether or not they're going to come back. Because if a relationship ends or they lose their job, then of course these are good indicators that they may try to hoover you. So I hope that helps. And you can support me and my work by giving this video a thumbs up down below. Also, please hit subscribe and click on notifications so that you'll be notified when I go live in the future. If you would like to donate, just go to my PayPal. It is paypal.me/Narc Survivor. One-on-one coaching sessions, you can go to my website. It is narcsurvivor.co.uk. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section. I'd love to hear from you. And you can follow me on my Instagram. It is Narc Survivor YouTube. Thank you all for joining me on another Narc Survivor live video. I appreciate you all, and I look forward to speaking with you in another live video very soon.